Hello, everybody. You're watching the Hearthstone Battlegrounds EMEA Cup, where you're just in time to join us for the third and fourth lobbies. Thoddle, it's already been so much action for the first two lobbies. Actually, for the first one, I was kind of thinking, hey, we have our first relatively tame lobby. We have Menagerie sneaking up into the top two and even a Soul Juggler comp. But really, things kicked into overdrive when we hit that second lobby with that back and forth elemental transition into Murlocs, complete slugfest, and to me, perhaps most surprisingly, the first big blunder that we've actually seen of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Gio. I don't know how much I've got left. Like, I think I'm just spent already after those first two lobbies. Like, absolutely insane back-to-back findings. But yeah, it was nice to see the recovery from obviously just that straight-up, brain fart where he threw away the Baron for absolutely no reason. Was able to pick it up, and I think most importantly, kept his composure. Right, like didn't tilt from that point, didn't completely melt down. Was able to piece something together to actually come back into proceedings. But we are going to kick things off with lobby number 2 now. And XQN has a juicy looking Jandis start here. Lots of triple potential with the bouncing from the hero power.
That is true. You only need one token generator in theory to be able to get the triples later on, but it does give you a bit more flexibility when you go for the double that's already in the shop. Ends up just swapping into the same minion. No real effect there, but what you're going to see is XQN on the I think on the 5 gold turn, because I do expect him to level on 4 gold, is to swap Alleycat once again so he can triple on the tabby.
Exactly. Having the duplicate of the actual Alleycat in the shop, though, is quite nice because it will create, depending on what swaps actually happen, you do create this nice scenario where you triple the tabby cat, but you also still have the Alleycat pair on your board, right? Which means that you can then try and triple that as well for maximum greed. So it's a really nice looking early shop. The one downside is that he will take quite a significant amount of damage in the meantime due to just picking up very weak minions through the early turns.
That is true. Also, the fact that he's coming up against Millhouse RDU on that hero, definitely one that benefits a lot from early economy. And we'll see if he does get a little bit of a wider board this turn, which will aggravate XQN's problem of taking that early damage. But he does get the best swap in the Elemental here, which is huge because the other minions, they're battle cry, so they don't actually have the stats on them. But Elemental is the one token that you're happy to pick up without any play it.
Yeah, that's sick. It's just +1 gold or +1 2/2 on his board for the play next turn if he does intend to just pick up the triple next turn. So that is an insane 1-in-3 outcome for XQN. Might just stem the bleeding now because he does take another 4 damage in the early game, but the addition of that 1 extra minion now on his 5 gold turn might just allow him to stop taking damage 1 turn earlier than he might have done otherwise.
Also really great that because it is Elemental in particular, that is a minion that you're actually happy to sell to be able to complete the swaps on this. And it looks like XQN is cashing in the triple right now, going for a 3-drop, which is absolutely justified because he didn't have too many stats otherwise. I don't often suggest taking the Beast, but absolutely warranted here.
Yeah, this early on in the fight, I think that's absolutely correct. And now XQN has a decision to make about how greedy he wants to be for these triples, and it turns out maximum greed is where his head is at, freezing that shop once again to continue trying to milk some of those pairs and triples.
Yeah, I love it, especially since he did take the Beast, which is a minion that you're not expecting to stay in your comp for all that long. And so with the time he's bought himself by picking up this card, he is going to be able to get a triple into a higher tier minion.
Big attacks from Alexis Diesel on the Ragnaros. He was always going to lose that fight, but actually being able to trade down the Beast was a very big deal in terms of taking minimum damage in that fight.
Checking in with RDU, it was the relatively slow turn for Millhouse. We generally want to level, and then they spike on 6 gold. We do see that RDU froze on the last shop, though, because he has this triple potential. I'm just curious about whether he wants to cash in the 0-cost refresh that he got from the Anomaly. Or perhaps even just level again and greed the triples.
Yeah, I have seen RDU playing Millhouse quite a lot in my time, and I know he is a greedy boy when it comes to these triples. Sometimes just taking multiple turns just to hit the level button and pass, essentially. Looking for a 5, looking for a 6, sometimes even in positions like this. He's gone through various different stages of greed with this character in his Battlegrounds career so far.
It is true that the current meta definitely feels centered around who gets to hit the Genies first, or even Mama Bear and Brand, all of them direction-defining minions. For RDU, though, it was that little bit scarier because he was facing off against Kael'thas, which tends to put a lot of stats on the board, but it's a huge deal that he manages to kill off the Stasis Elemental. That's some damage saved there.
Yeah, and I think he also will have felt a bit more secure because if he was mousing over the Kael'thas, he could have got the information that he'd gone to Tavern 3, right? So he was unlikely to be massively strong. It can still happen that you take a bunch of damage from a player that's done that if they picked up some premium Tavern 3 minions just because of the extra damage that those minions themselves will deal to you. But I think overall added security. And what was I saying, Gia? What was I saying? Cell level is the play here from RDU, but the reasoning behind that is the role on the opponent that he's found this turn, going up against Habu Gabu on the Maiev, who has just hit their level up turn playing the regular Maiev curve.
That is huge, the timing on this, because we have talked about when you save triples for long enough, it feels like you just commit and go for the 5-drop instead of a 4-drop. And if RDU needed any more reason, it's the fact knowing that he won't take too much damage, depending on how much Habu Gabu wants to rearrange. Honestly, I feel like the tininess of RDU's minions means that any amount of rearranging probably won't help that much, but maybe Habu Gabu went for a level himself.
Yeah, he did go up to Tavern 3 this turn specifically, and honestly, the fact that Maiev is actually not gaining any real stat advantage in the early game anymore because the minions bought from the hero power are not gaining the health advantage, it does mean that you are not going to have too much of a blowout win from the Maiev here in most situations. I think it was going to be almost impossible to engineer any board state that did not beat RDU there because RDU is just by far the weakest player in the lobby, but it was never going to be a huge hit, which is why they felt so comfortable going for the greedy level.
Yeah, it's great because Habu Gabu did stay on mostly Tavern 1 minions, but there you go, Chef Nomi with the Elemental already locked up on board. This is the massive scaling that RDU is going for, but doesn't actually hit any elementals on the first roll, which is maybe the scary part about playing Millhouse is you do have the insane economy, but it does rely on hitting the good shops with multiple elementals.
I really like this decision, though, where RDU rolled and didn't hit an elemental, as you said, but then he did not just go, okay, I'm just going to roll straight past that. He just bought a big minion, Savannah Highmane, right? Just picked it up, which I do like because he does need to start consolidating his health right now. He needs to start preserving that 25 health that he does have to maximum effect in order to scale that Nomi, because an 8 gold Nomi is a very early Nomi, don't get me wrong, but you do still need those turns to scale it.
And that's why he also took that Gold Grubber, which is kind of perfect for the type of board state he has as Millhouse, where you want some other static self-buffing minions to be able to shore up your board while you're building up for the big Nomis. But checking in with his partner, Habu Gabu's put together a little bit of pirate synergy, and it's a big deal that he has more minions than the Kael'thas here because he guaranteed get to attack first with the Seabreaker Goliath.
Yeah,
I think I screwed up the name on that, but it's fine.
I think that's right, isn't it? Yeah, I'm useless at card names, don't ask me. But regardless, Bootylicious has managed to go to Tavern 4 himself while still being on 37 health, which honestly is the merit of him having fought against RDU that one round, right? When he pushed the greedy level to 3 and then had RDU as his opponent, who was incredibly weak at that point, Bootylicious has been able to ramp up extremely quickly. You can see overall, this is a very, very aggressive leveling lobby so far.
And for Bootylicious, he's taken minions that don't necessarily have synergy with each other, but they're just well statted, which is something you can get from Kael'thas, which lends Kael'thas to pretty consistently being able to get menagerie strategies, maybe more than other heroes. But I do worry for his long-term scaling potential because it's very rare that Light Fangs are fast enough in this meta.
Yeah, it's very fair. And it's kind of Kael'thas 101, really. There's certain turns, like up until 10 gold, where Kael'thas is just usually very powerful just because of the free +2/+2 that they've got on multiple buys up until that point. But just like any other hero, you are eventually going to have to hit some kind of long-term scaling or you will fall off in the late game.
And you can see here, not leveling any further just to finish with the full board. And I do think that he is going to be dishing out a lot of damage to Alexis Diesel, and it might be that Bootylicious is just assuming his role of maybe trying to bully the players that are not on his team before they get to scale very hard, because it looks like in terms of long-term direction and the fact that he's not leveled again, this is not necessarily a top 1 comp.
Ooh, unstable ghoul pickup here. That was a me-first scenario for Lexus Diesel on the Ragnaros, and he absolutely got it, being able to get full value out of his own Divine Shields before the unstable ghoul came down to snipe. And actually, it looks like he's going to be able to take down most of this board state, but it's still going to be a small win for Bootylicious. Yeah, good hit at the end just to save some health, taking out the Bolvar.
Yeah, it is huge. And also the fact that Alexis Diesel did have good minions to buff with Ragnaros. A lot of the times, it feels like there's 3 conditions to really get the benefit out of Rag, which is kill to 25, and then you also need to survive for that long, and then you need to have decent minions that you actually want to buff. So the fact that he's already picked up the Crackling Elementals is huge. But look at this triple for Goddammit.
Look at these Zerus, for Goddammit. Just absolute garbage being rolled off those 2 Zerus in his hands. Interestingly, tripling tokens isn't always something you want to do with Daryl, because it is technically minus stats in terms of the overall number of minions that you get to sell. But of course there is upside, and that upside is that you get to discover the Tavern tier minion from above. But I do think it's something that you do have to think about as to whether you actually want to buy that triple or whether you just want to go for the raw dance. And with no straight up dance target in the shop right now, I think it's pretty wise to just end up taking the triple.
That's right, and you don't always see Daryl leveling to the same curve as some of the other heroes, because he does have that option to just go in hard on some of the tier 3 minions and dance. But I think the fact that there was no good dance target, like you said, no additional divine shields, and he was just handed the triple on a silver platter, means that he now has the ability to go for a regular type of comp and hit one of those direction defining 5 drops.
Yeah, and by regular type of comp, you mean he's going to try and discover a genie with that triple on this turn.
Yep. Gonna rub the magic lamp like everybody else.
You see him holding off, though, on that turn because he was queued up into Silvername, who is his partner there, so they will currently be trying to normalize their board states as much as they can, get as close to a tie between the 2 players as possible.
Speaking of team fights, this is Gabu Gabu versus RDU, but oh my goodness, RDU is extremely strong. I don't know if he could have made the positioning a little bit less painful for Habu Gabu, but maybe this boat can save him.
RDU is colossal, gargantuan, massive Gia. He's pretty big is what I'm saying. Like, how are you actually able to deal with this? Oh my goodness.
He's just gonna tank so much damage. He at least managed to snipe off this elemental with the help of the boat, but Gabu Gabu really has to make up for his last lobby where he finished 8th, and yeah, the fact that RDU ran into him at a pretty bad timing is a huge deal.
It is. And honestly, I don't know how much really could have been done about the positioning there. Like, looking at RDU's board, it's really not a particularly positional-based board, right? It's just all of his minions are massive. That's basically what the early Nomi has done, so...
And here we see a triple picked up for Goddammit. Bama Bear is one of those direction-defining 5 drops, but he doesn't quite have any good beasts to pay off of yet on tier 4. Definitely looking for the high mains and the Hydras.
Wow, rolls straight through the Crackling Elemental there as well.
That is a pretty good dance target as kind of a cleave, and when it's a triple, almost always a cleave.
But looking instead like he does, we just want to go for some immediate beast synergy here.
Does get a decent amount of dances on the Rat Pack, which is what he is trying to dance for at the moment. I'm just curious what the role of these Shifter Zeruses in the hand is, because honestly, it's kind of weird to pick them up as Daryl, which is a hero that really values being able to maximize your economy for the dancing. The fact that he has just had -6 gold and is waiting for a good roll at this point makes me curious whether he's meant to cash them out soon.
I actually almost always buy Zerus with Daryl myself. I think
really?
it's just a useful minion to buy, right? Because generally with Daryl, like, the waste of gold is not necessarily buying minions. The waste of gold is rolling too much, right? That's when gold actually goes down the toilet and you just never see it again. So any minion with like a decent battle cry or high potential, I think it's worth buying just with the intention of selling it onto a big dance target. And that's what these Zerus are about, right? They can spike a 6-drop and then you win the game, great. Or you can just use them as food for a dance. The problem is the way this has panned out for Dummit so far hasn't been about big dances, right? He's just kind of curved into that 5-drop discover, and now he's playing a little bit more normally, which is making the Zeruses look a little bit stupid for now, but I think in general, picking up Zeruses, Daryl is actually pretty powerful.
glad to see it from that perspective. And now that I think about it, it is one of those minions that you can pick up incidentally while you're trying to isolate a dance target, and then you end up thinking like, maybe it's not worth it to sell this. So that does make quite some sense. For Oliesh here, he has a decent amount of Death Rattle synergy, but the Macaw definitely feels like it's tough to guarantee it actually hitting the spawn, and there's a triple option now here.
Yeah, and this is an obnoxious economy build right now from Olieg because he has, I'm assuming he's putting the Reborn on his Genie here at the moment, just trying to scale. Then he also has the Parrot in second position behind his Spawn of N'Zoth. So his Spawn is opening up the board space for him, and then he's trying to use the Parrot to get the extra proc off that Genie for an extra minion in hand. It is a fragile setup for sure, because I believe those Deflectobots also have Death Rattles on them, and the Genie could get sniped by the opponent's first attack anyway, but it does seem like Oliek has got some good value out of it so far with that Amalgadon already in his hand.
Yeah, even one extra proc off the Genie is huge. Unfortunately, the Amalgadon that he does roll has Death Rattle on it as well, so it's very unlikely that he's going to get extra value from Genie, at least in terms of board state, because I believe a Macaw procking Genie doesn't put the card in your hand, right?
Let's see if
Does it not? It activates the Death Rattle. Why wouldn't it?
I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's Khadgar that doesn't work that way.
Khadgar, I know Khadgar doesn't work. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, he does end up putting the Macaw first just to try and get extra stats on this board because it was a monstrously scary opponent on the other side.
Tavern Tempest coming off though, but yeah, I do like the decision to kind of switch off the greed. I do kind of like that economy build for a while, but I was even considering there, like the Parrot could have gone left. It could also have gone right, and gone after the Deflectobot attack, so you could try and use the Parrot as the reset for the Deflectobots by trying to activate one of their Death Rattles after they attack. Could have been an interesting option as well, but he's ended up just trying to fight a head-on battle into RDU's massive elementals and has had absolutely no success in doing so, but neither has Habu Gabu, who's going to bite the dust. 3 people dying that turn, it looked like, just off Habu Gabu's perspective there, so that is a very quick acceleration of the lobby.
That's massive, especially the last time we checked in on Bootylicious. He did have decently sized minions, but again, it's all about long-term scaling in this type of meta, where you can just get picked off in 1 or 2 rounds if you are not prepared for the size of the elementals on the other side. Alexis Diesel, though, he has the Baron Goldrin put together. There is this Harvest Golem that he will have to eventually sell off if he's looking to go for long-term beasts.
Yeah, so those 3 players that died, 3 representatives of 3 different teams. So every team is still alive in the lobby right now, which of course is a big deal for everyone. But we do now get to see some of the auto-scaling, putting in work for the Ragnaros. Still very effective if you get to this point. I think we actually saw early on that the Rag was the lowest tavern level in the lobby. He was a full tavern level behind most people, it looked like, which does seem to be a thing that people favor these days, just trying to be a little bit stronger early, because you know that auto-scaling in the late game is able to get you there as long as you don't take too much damage early.
Why is it that whenever I see RDU on stream, whether it's in this tournament or streaming on his personal channel, there is a golden chef Nomi that he gets? That is insane. I think it is a clear decision to just sell off the Molten Rock to be able to get that economy done, because you really don't want to be freezing, if possible, as Millhouse. It's a double waste of the gold because it's so expensive to refresh.
Gia, you are absolutely right in that he does always have a golden Nomi, but I thought you were going to say, why is it, no matter whenever I look at RDU, whether it's this tournament or in Grandmasters, he's always high-rolling super, super hard, and you also would have been correct in that statement.
Oh man, I don't want to trash talk too hard. It feels like that's Colin's job here. And no, it's primarily yours when it comes to Radu, and then when it's about Pirates and Shinbala, that is Colin's job. I'm going to try and just be the peacekeeper here, but oh my goodness, Radu is not going easy on anyone here. Tons of damage being chunked out. Honestly, it's a blessing for XQN to survive as Jandis, even if he doesn't necessarily scale that hard, because it largely seems like a game of who can avoid Radu at the moment.
And Dummit getting some revenge from beyond the grave. I think it was him that eliminated Habu Gabu, but then his next matchup against a Ghost, he actually takes 7 damage and was perhaps even a little bit fortunate to survive there. But he does live to fight another day right now. And it's a big deal, of course, because his partner Silvername is out in 6th place, so Dummit really needs to get on the grind here. And oh my goodness, that elemental is going to be enormous, Gia.
It really is, and the fact that it is the Crackling Cyclone, which does have Wind Fury and Divine Shield, means that this is kind of an X-Factor minion to put up front in the late game comps when your opponents are trying to maybe go for a Baron plus Selfless Poison setup. If your Crackling goes first, you can sometimes just snipe off 2 of the minions before they even get the Divine Shield put on them.
Gia, dream bigger. Not just Wind Fury, Mega Wind Fury, Gia.
Yep.
You can snipe off 4 minions from your opponent before they're able to do anything.
That's why we had to remove the Whirlwind Tempest. You couldn't give them Omega Wind Fury.
yeah, of course. That's just clearly overpowered. The next stage above that, of course, is Giga Wind Fury, and you don't even want to know what that does.
Oh, this poor Daryl. God damn it. He did lose to a ghost, and now he is about to lose to the exact opposite of a ghost. Yeah, this was a good effort, and honestly, putting together the McCall with the Selfless Hero, honestly, he was a couple poisons away of maybe being able to fight back, but absolutely no game against the size of these elementals. It honestly feels like Chef Nomi is scaling harder than Little Rag these days.
It almost feels like RDU could have sold his entire board apart from the Crackling Cyclone and still won this fight with how huge it is. Like, it's absolutely absurd. He put his... he even understood how strong he is and put both of his genies up front to try and get them to die, and they're still not even close to dying. It's absurd power level from RDU this game.
But we must check in on Oliesh as well, who is going to bite the dust care of Jandis. XQN honestly didn't seem that strong when we were looking at him facing up against Radu, but it's important to look in the context of the whole lobby because RDU is definitely the runaway favorite here, and anybody who can take second and help catch up to the red team is in a good spot. But we are down to a 3-man fight now.
Yeah, 3-man fight, and still from 3 different teams as well. Alexis Diesel's partner Oliech went out in 4th, so they certainly have the potential for the biggest round between the team. RDU's partner Habu Gabu in 8th, and XQN's partner Bootylicious going down in 7th. So potentially a really big round here for the black team if Alexis Diesel is able to take home a 1st or 2nd place here.
Definitely feels like a 2nd, and I'm definitely... sorry, he is the one facing RDU next, so it feels like a 3rd, my mistake. Alexis Diesel, we were calling it a 3-man fight for formality's sake, but honestly, it's just RDU and a couple punching bags. What is he able to do with the size of that board? Well, the answer is play down a couple poisonous minions, but he does lack Divine Shield generation on the Spore and the Myaxna, so I don't think it'll be enough.
Yeah, and the Galdrin is by no means going to get anywhere close to the stats that RDU has on board right now. Look at just the size of that Wind Fury Elemental. Going to make a massive state of this board. Depending on how these attacks go down, yep, that's perfect for RDU. Gets to take out all the taunts before crashing into that poisonous minion at the end.
And even if it had hit the poison straight away, it's not just all about the Crackling Cyclone, which is the ludicrous thing about this. He has one insane minion, and then the rest of his board is still just 60 plus attack. It goes to show about the state of the meta, at least when it comes to how high you can scale with certain comps. We can check in over with XQN, though, to see if he will put together any type of way to beat that. Currently no poison on his side, and the minions are a bit small, but we could see him go for just try and pick up a couple poisons. He already has the Amalgadon in hand, so maybe if Bob is really kind in the next shop.
Yeah, I think based on how badly he should have beaten this Ghost, which it is the 5th place Ghost currently, so it died several rounds ago, there's not going to be that much health on these Gars, and yeah, we see maximum health is 50 and 100 on the 2 Gars roughly, which yeah, is not going to be anywhere near enough to compete with what RDU was doing.
Yeah, even his non-Crackling Cyclone minions would be able to take out the Gars in 1 or 2 hits.
Yep.
There's a potential triple here. But honestly, the fact that they don't have enough attack on them is really big too.
I think the fact they don't have enough attack on them is a reason to combine them, because at least then you have one minion that does have a big attack on it, and you also get another discover opportunity at an Amalgadon here, right? Which is a big deal as well, to look for an extra Divine Shield poisonous minion.
Amalgadon really is going to be the big savior here, or even Mayaxna. He rolls the Divine Shield. Yeah, that is big. Gets the poisonous too, so he gets to keep this Toxfin in hand, so potentially could pick up some of these Murlocs in the shop if he survives the next fight. Still very doubtful, but a valiant effort.
100% saving this Toxfin for next game, Gia. That's what's happening here. See how much damage the Crackling Cyclone is going to do. It's going to take 2 attacks to even chew through that Gar, but it's going to get there because there's no poison here to really interrupt the chain. So it's going to chew through these massive taunts with aplomb. 3 of them down, and value trade activated for a 4th attack now to potentially come through as well. Oh, absolutely decimated his board state with a single minion.
I believe that Golden Guard deserves an honorable mention for being able to survive 1 hit.
Yes.
And that will mean RDU with another great performance, and similarly to the story of last lobby, shoring up for Habu Gabu's performance.
Yes, that is a very, very big deal. It's very different to how we saw things going for them yesterday, where it was just complete dominance for both of them. It was first and second, or it was first and third, or it was second and third. You know, they were absolutely crushing every single lobby between the two of them. Not quite as successful this time around, but if one out of the 2 players continues to be successful in every lobby that we have, that is going to put them in very, very good standing for a first place overall.
It's true, because they were already, as of last lobby, ahead in the standings, but the good 3rd and 4th finish for the black team puts them now at a tied spot with Habu Gabu and RDU, who are averaging 3.5 points in the last couple of rounds. Bootylicious and Goddammit also tied 4 points below, so largely still anybody's game.
Yeah, unfortunately for Red right now, it is Habu Gabu who's laying things down just a little bit. He has the Mr. Bigglesworth curve right now. You win your first game, you think, wow, this hero's sick, I'm going to pick him every time. 8th. Okay, unlucky, never picking this cat again. He needs to buck his ideas up from this point, because 8th twice in a row is certainly not what he wants to be looking at based on the results that he had yesterday. But he has been trying to scrap his way through with some pretty interesting hero choices, let's say.
Absolutely. We do know that as of yesterday, Habu Gabu and RDU were both the highest performing individual players, with RDU clocking in at 2.8 average placement, Habu Gabu at 3, which is insane to think about. So far, with more of a sample size, it definitely feels like Habu Gabu has been leveled down a bit closer to the middle of the pack, but RDU definitely still continuing his hot streak. The important thing is, though, if things continue on as they're going, with the red team taking a top and a bottom placement and averaging out to the middle because of that, and if everybody just stays level with them, it's still going to come out in the red team's favor, because our tiebreaker does depend on who gets the most first place finishes, followed by second place.
Yeah, and that is a very big deal indeed. If they keep winning lobbies, you know, there should be some reward, right? Like, winning lobbies is what you're here to do. And even though this point system that we have is a lot more flat and doesn't reward spiking the first as much as some other point breakdowns might do, since it's a flat distribution but through the rankings, winning lobbies is still winning lobbies, and you want to be rewarded for that. So it does factor into the tiebreakers if it gets to that point. And as unlikely as that might sound, it's already happened once this weekend, where the tiebreaker was used on Friday, I believe, to decide who was able to finish second. So it could absolutely come down to that, and all of these clutch first places from RDU and admittedly Habu Gabu as well might just come into